I never thought a birthday could ruin my relationship with my family forever. But here I am, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at the leftover paper decorations my roommate forgot to take down, wondering how the people who were supposed to love me the most could break me so completely. My name is Ava Pierce, I'm 20 years old, and I am the forgotten child in a family that pretends it doesn't have favorites. But they do. They always have. And his name is Jacob. Let me make something clear before I begin. I don't hate my brother. I don't wish him harm. He didn't ask to be the golden child. But he is. Undeniably. Blindingly. And the rest of us orbit around him whether we like it or not. Growing up in Austin, Texas, our house might as well have been a shrine to Jacob's accomplishments. Trophies lined the walls. School plaques filled shelves. Photos of him with medals hung over the fireplace. Report cards with his name circled in red marker covered the fridge. Mine were placed behind them. Sometimes not placed at all. If Jacob got an A, it was a celebration. If I got an A, it was expected. If Jacob wanted something, he got it. If I wanted something, I was being unreasonable. If Jacob needed help, everyone rushed to him. If I needed help, well, I usually just figured things out myself. It wasn't always obvious favoritism. No one said it aloud. But it was in the small things. The casual dismissals. The forgotten plans. The half-listening nods. By the time I was a teenager, I learned how to shrink myself so I wouldn't look like I was competing with him. My accomplishments felt like they existed in the shadows of his. Jacob always got the spotlight. And I got whatever was left. Still, I never said anything. Never caused trouble. Never brought up the pain. Because they were my family. And I thought that was enough. But this year, my 20th birthday, was the day I finally saw the truth without denial, excuses, or illusions. And it broke something inside me I don't think will ever fully heal. The story really begins about 3 months before my birthday. My parents, Laura and Daniel, had been increasingly distant. Not cold, just disengaged. Conversations felt shorter, distracted, like they were waiting for someone more important to walk into the room. I assumed work stress, not anything personal. But then Jacob dropped a bomb. He called in the middle of one of our rare family dinners and announced, I might be moving to New York soon. Just like that. My parents froze. Forks midair. Eyes wide. Then, just as quickly, they exploded into excitement. Oh my God, Jacob. That's incredible. Ava, isn't that amazing? You'll be living in Manhattan. They asked him dozens of questions. Job details. Housing. Timeline. Not one of them asked how I felt about it. Not one acknowledged I was sitting there too. I ate quietly until dinner ended. That night, I realized they had already emotionally left Austin, because Jacob had mentioned leaving. A week after that, my parents started talking non-stop about New York. Not in a hopeful way. In a planning way. How much would rent be for him? What neighborhood should he try for? Maybe we can help him with moving costs. Does he need help finding a roommate? We should start saving money to visit him. Meanwhile, I was working 2 part-time jobs and finishing my 2nd year of community college. Struggling. Exhausted. Invisible. When I mentioned that I might need help paying for books next semester, my dad responded with, Ava, you're an adult. You need to be responsible. I wanted to scream. But I swallowed it. Like always. 2 weeks before my birthday, I finally gathered the courage to ask them something. Nothing big. Nothing extravagant. Just a small celebration. A simple dinner with my family. Just the 4 of us. I rehearsed it for days. Then I asked my mom. Hey, for my birthday this year, could we do a small dinner? Just us? I know everyone's busy, but I'd really like something low-key. Her response? She didn't even look up from her phone. We'll see, honey. Things are a bit chaotic with Jacob's move right now. My birthday. My 20th birthday. And they might be able to fit me in. I tried again with my dad. Maybe we could go to that Italian place I like. Or even just order takeout. He shrugged. We'll do something if we have time, kiddo. If they have time. If Jacob's schedule allowed it. If the stars aligned. I told myself not to take it personally. That they were stressed about the potential move. That I shouldn't expect too much. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't a priority. Not even close. A week before my birthday, Jacob called with an update. Over speakerphone, he said. I got the job. It's official. I'm moving to New York in 3 weeks. My parents cried. They actually cried. My mom grabbed tissues. My dad kept saying, I'm so proud of you. They asked him a million more questions. It was like I wasn't even in the room. And then my mom said the sentence that sealed everything. We should throw a going away party for you. My stomach dropped. A party. For him. 3 days before my birthday. And they announced it like it was the most natural thing in the world. My dad even clapped his hands once. A big party. We'll invite everyone. Everyone. Except me, apparently. Because my birthday, was never mentioned at all. Not once. Not even accidentally. I waited. And waited. No one said. What about Ava's birthday? Not even Jacob. Especially not Jacob. For them, his moving away was more important than my existence. I sat there silently while they planned the whole event around him. Catering. Decorations. Guests. Music. Photo boards. Flight itineraries. They were buzzing with excitement. And I was shrinking deeper into my chair. By the time Jacob hung up, I felt like a ghost. My mom turned to me, smiling wide with red eyes and said, Isn't this exciting? I wanted to say, It's my birthday weekend. I wanted to scream it. But the words stuck. Like they always did. 3 days before my birthday, on the night of Jacob's party, my entire family was bustling around the house decorating like it was Christmas morning. Balloons everywhere. Banners. Catered food filling the kitchen counters. My parents in matching, good luck, Jacob. T-shirts. It was embarrassing how on brand it was. When guests arrived, they all hugged Jacob first. Everyone. Every single person. People kept saying, You must be so proud. You raised such an incredible son. He's going to do big things. And my parents beamed like their hearts could burst. Meanwhile, I stood off to the side holding a stack of plastic cups because my mom told me I could be useful. Not even a thank you. Not even a glance. Just an expectation. At one point, someone asked my dad, Isn't Ava's birthday coming up? And my dad laughed, and said, Oh yeah, we'll probably do something small. Nothing big. It was like being slapped. Hard. In front of 30 people. I went to the bathroom and cried as quietly as possible. No one noticed I was gone. Of course they didn't. When the party ended, my mom collapsed on the couch smiling ear to ear. That was wonderful, she sighed. Jacob must have felt so loved. I stared at her from the hallway and whispered, I wish I ever felt that. But she didn't hear me. Or she didn't care. 2 days later was my birthday eve. No one mentioned it. No plans. No hints. No, what do you want to do tomorrow? Nothing. The silence told me everything. My birthday morning began the same way every other day in that house did, quiet, uneventful, unnoticed. I woke up to sunlight creeping through the blinds and the faint smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. For a few seconds, half asleep, I let myself hope. Maybe they had something planned. Maybe they were waiting to surprise me. Maybe the universe would give me one small miracle. I got dressed, put on a sweater I loved, and walked into the kitchen. My mom was scrolling on her phone at the table. My dad was tying his running shoes. Neither looked up. "Morning," my dad mumbled. My mom didn't even speak, just hummed distractedly. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. Not a single "happy birthday." Not a glance. Not a smile. It was like my birthday didn't exist. Like I didn't exist. I made myself breakfast quietly, sitting in silence while my parents talked about Jacob's move, Jacob's plans, Jacob's apartment lease, Jacob's job orientation date. Every other sentence was his name. Not one was mine. That was the moment something inside me began to crack. Not break. Not shatter. Crack. A small, sharp sound I could feel in my chest. My dad eventually stood up, grabbed his keys, and said, "All right, I'm heading to the gym." My mom waved without looking up. "Have fun." Still nothing for me. Not a word. Not a glance. No birthday. No recognition. No thought. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to breathe. It wasn't even 9 a.m., and I already felt like I had been forgotten for the 1000th time. I decided to leave the house for a bit. I couldn't sit there listening to them talk about Jacob all day. I grabbed my bag and walked out without saying anything. They didn't notice. I ended up at a tiny bakery downtown. A quiet place I used to study at when I needed to escape home. The owner, a sweet older woman named Mrs. Patel, knew me well. She smiled when I walked in. "Ava. Happy birthday, sweetheart." My chest tightened. Someone remembered. Someone saw me. I almost cried right there. She gave me a free blueberry pastry, as a birthday treat, and I sat by the window eating it slowly, pretending everything was fine. Pretending it didn't hurt that a near stranger remembered what my own parents forgot. Around noon, I checked my phone. Nothing from Mom. Nothing from Dad. Nothing from Jacob. Not even a lazy HBD. I tried to distract myself by walking around downtown, window shopping, listening to music, scrolling on my phone. But the emptiness followed me everywhere. No matter how much I tried to convince myself their forgetfulness didn't matter, it did. It mattered because it wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. A history. A lifetime of being an afterthought. A lifetime of being the other kid. By the afternoon, I finally returned home. I wasn't expecting balloons or a party. I wasn't that naive anymore. But I did expect a happy birthday, at the very least. When I walked inside, the door slammed a little too loudly behind me, and my mom looked up. "Oh good, you're back," she said casually. "Can you help me clean up the last of the decorations from Jacob's party? I'm exhausted." My heart sank. She still hadn't said it. She was asking me to clean up my brother's party on my birthday. I forced myself to keep my voice steady. "I kind of hoped you guys would remember what today is." My mom blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" I stared at her. "It's my birthday." Her eyes widened for a split second, just long enough to reveal the truth. She had forgotten. Completely. "Oh. Right," she said quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Happy birthday, sweetie. I've just been so tired from everything this week. Everything this week. Everything except me." My dad came in from the backyard, wiping sweat from his forehead. "What's going on?" he asked. My mom answered, "It's Ava's birthday." He paused. Nodded once. "Oh. Right. Happy birthday, kiddo. Right. Happy birthday, kiddo. Like it was a calendar reminder he'd dismissed earlier. I stood there in the kitchen feeling like a guest in my own life. After an awkward silence, my mom clapped her hands lightly and said, "Well, we were going to go out to dinner tonight anyway. We can count that as your celebration too, right? Count that. Count Jacob's going away dinner as my birthday celebration." I stared at her, numb. I asked quietly, "So, Jacob's coming too?" "Of course," she said, confused. "It's his last weekend here." I nodded. My stomach twisted painfully. They hadn't planned anything for me. They didn't intend to. They weren't sorry. They just wanted to patch it up without guilt or effort. "Sure," I said quietly. "Whatever." Because what else could I say? The restaurant that night was packed. My parents were cheerful. Jacob was glowing from all his attention. Everyone talked loudly, laughed loudly, and joked loudly. Except me. No one wished me a happy birthday again. No one bought a cake. No one toasted anything. No one asked if I liked the restaurant. It was all about Jacob. All night. At the end of the meal, the waiter came by and asked, "Any dessert tonight? Maybe something special?" My mom laughed. "Oh no, we're stuffed. No dessert." I opened my mouth. But Jacob spoke first. "Actually, could I get a slice of that chocolate mousse cake? It's my favorite." My mom smiled. "Of course, honey." I felt something in me collapse. Quietly. Completely. The waiter returned with a single slice of cake, complete with a candle. My parents cheered. For Jacob's big move. He blew out the candle. And I sat there watching him celebrate. On my birthday. My 20th birthday. And no one noticed. Not a single person at that table realized what they had done. Not a single person saw me shrinking into my chair, my heart breaking quietly while they cheered for someone else. Not one. When we got home from the restaurant, something inside me felt different. Not numb. Not angry. Empty. A clean, cold kind of empty. Like the final piece of denial had slid off my chest and left nothing behind. I went to my room, shut the door, and sat on the floor for a long time, staring at the beige carpet and the string lights I'd hung months ago. My phone buzzed twice, friends wishing me a happy birthday. They remembered. People who weren't obligated to love me remembered. But my family, my own blood, forgot until I had to remind them. And even then, they treated it like a footnote in a week dedicated to Jacob. Around 10 p.m., there was a soft knock on my door. I didn't answer. A moment later, my mom cracked it open. She peeked inside with a hesitant smile. "Ava? Sweetheart? Are you okay?" I kept my eyes on the floor. "I'm fine. You seemed quiet at dinner." I let out a laugh, short, sharp, humorless. "I wonder why." She sighed. "Honey, please don't be dramatic. It's been a very emotional week. Jacob is moving across the country in just a few days." I finally looked up at her. "You forgot my birthday." She stiffened. "We didn't forget." "Yes," I said softly, "you did." Her voice sharpened. Not angry, defensive. "Well, we've had a lot on our minds. You know that. You can't expect everything to revolve around you." I stared at her, stunned. "Revolve around me?" I whispered. "It's the one day a year that's supposed to be mine." She rolled her eyes slightly, as if I was being childish. "Well," I said, "happy birthday. We took you out to dinner. What more do you want?" "What do I want?" I wanted my family to see me. To remember me. To acknowledge me without needing a reminder. But instead, I said, "Nothing. I don't want anything." She huffed quietly. "Good. Because this attitude isn't helping anyone." Attitude. The word stung. Like my disappointment was a burden rather than a wound. She stepped back from the door. "Well, go to bed soon. We have a lot to do tomorrow. Jacob needs help packing." And then she closed my door. My birthday ended with me alone in my room, while they planned for Jacob again. The next morning, I woke up earlier than normal. Sleep had been impossible. I walked into the kitchen hoping for something, anything. A second chance at a good morning. Maybe an apology. Maybe acknowledgement. Instead, I found my parents and Jacob laughing loudly as my mom flipped pancakes, Jacob's favorite breakfast. They didn't make pancakes for me on my birthday. They made them for him the next day. My mom looked over and said, "Oh, Ava, good morning. Did you sleep well?" I didn't answer the question. My eyes were on the stack of pancakes. "Are those for Jacob?" She blinked, confused by the tone of my voice. "Well, yes. It's his last full weekend here. Of course. Always him. Always his preferences. His needs. His schedule." I sat quietly at the table with a cup of coffee while they talked around me. Jacob's apartment lease. Jacob's excitement. Jacob's packing list. Jacob's future. No one asked me about school. About work. About my plans. About how I felt about possibly losing my only sibling to another state. I didn't exist in that kitchen. And for the first time in my life, I saw it clearly. I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't an equal. I wasn't cherished. I was background scenery. By the time the morning ended, the emptiness had hardened into something else. Resolve. I needed to get out. Away from this house. Away from this hierarchy. Away from being treated like a shadow. I spent the rest of the day in my room. Packing. Not a suitcase like Jacob. Not belongings for a major life move. Just a few essentials. Clothes. Laptop. Toiletries. A framed photo of me and my late grandmother, the only person who ever made me feel special. Around 4 p.m., my dad knocked on my door. "Hey, can you help bring Jacob's stuff to the car?" I turned around slowly. "No." He blinked. "What do you mean no?" I zipped up my backpack. "I'm not helping." His voice grew firm. "Ava, don't start this again." "Start what again?" Asking to be acknowledged? Asking to be included? Asking to matter? I stood up and faced him fully. "I'm leaving." He stared at me as if I'd spoken in another language. "What? Leaving where?" "Just, leaving." He scoffed. "Are you seriously doing this right now? Your brother needs our help." Of course. Even in this moment, Jacob came first. I pushed past him and walked down the hallway. My mom saw me and frowned. "Where are you going?" "We need to finish packing." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said, "It's my birthday weekend, Mom." She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. "And you forgot. And you didn't care. And you never care. And I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." She looked shocked, as if this realization was brand new to her. "Ava, that's not fair." "It's exactly fair," I whispered. Jacob came downstairs holding a box, confused. "What's going on?" I shook my head. "Nothing. Same as always." He frowned. "Ava, seriously." "No," I said, my voice finally breaking. "You don't get to pretend we're close just because you need an audience. You all forgot my birthday. Every single one of you. And then you made me watch you celebrate him instead. My mom stepped toward me. Ava, honey, we said happy birthday. You said it because I had to remind you. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Uncomfortable. I lifted my backpack onto my shoulder. I'm staying with a friend. Don't call me unless it's an emergency. My dad's voice sharpened. Stop being dramatic, Ava. This isn't a big deal. There it was again. Dramatic. Overreacting. Too sensitive. I stared at him and asked one final question. What did you do for Jacob's 20th birthday? He blinked. He didn't need to answer. I already knew. They threw him a huge party. Invited dozens of people. Bought him an expensive watch. Made him his favorite cake. Took him on a weekend trip. All without hesitation. I walked to the door. Opened it. Looked back one last time and said, "You never forget the golden child's birthday. Only mine." And then I left. My dad yelled my name once. My mom told me to stop being ridiculous. Jacob said, "Wait, just talk to us." But I didn't stop. I kept walking. Out of the house. Out of the imbalance. Out of the cycle. Out of the pain. I didn't know where my life was headed. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. When I walked out of that house, the Texas air felt heavier than usual, humid against my skin, almost sticky. But at the same time, I could breathe. Really breathe. For the first time in years, I wasn't suffocating under someone else's shadow. I sat in my car for a long moment, gripping the steering wheel, tears blurring the world outside the windshield. Not loud sobs, just quiet, shaking breaths I'd held in for too long. Finally, I started the engine and drove. Not fast. Not in anger. Just with purpose. I went to the only place that had always felt safe. Maya's apartment. My roommate. My closest friend. My chosen family. The second she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. She just hugged me and said, "Bedroom's yours. Stay as long as you need." I cried into her shoulder, all the years of being overlooked, dismissed, minimized, and forgotten pouring out of me in one unfiltered wave. She didn't say, "Your parents didn't mean it." She didn't say, "You're overreacting." She didn't say, "They love you." She said the words no one else ever had. "You deserved better." And hearing that, it stitched something inside me I didn't know was torn. The next morning, my phone blew up. 10 missed calls from Mom. 6 from Dad. 4 from Jacob. A flood of texts. "Mom. Ava, come home. We need to talk. You can't just run away like this. You're making a huge mistake. Dad. Stop acting childish. You're overreacting because we forgot one thing. Come home and apologize." Apologize. That was a new level of irony. Jacob. Hey. I didn't know things were so bad. Can we talk? Please don't leave like this. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. Because I needed time to gather myself, something no one in that house ever gave me. Maya made breakfast and sat quietly beside me as I read every message. Finally, she said gently, "They're not reaching out because they suddenly understand. They're reaching out because you finally stopped playing your role." I knew she was right. For the first time in my life, I had broken the family script. And they didn't know what to do. Later that afternoon, I got one more text, this time from my mom. "Ava, we boxed up the decorations from Jacob's party. When you come home, we can talk about doing something small for your birthday next week." I stared at the message. Something small. Next week. Like a consolation prize after the fact. Like patching a broken bone with a sticker. I didn't reply. Because I finally understood something that had taken me 20 years to see clearly. They weren't apologizing. They weren't acknowledging the pain. They weren't taking accountability. They were trying to restore the hierarchy. Jacob centered. Me silent. Everything back to normal. Except normal had never been okay. Normal had been slowly killing me. 2 days later, Jacob showed up at Maya's door unexpectedly. I didn't expect to see him. Especially not alone. He looked almost nervous. "Ava, can we talk?" he asked quietly. Maya gave me a look. "Do you want me to stay?" But I shook my head. Jacob and I went outside and sat on the curb. He sighed first. I didn't know it was that bad. I let out a hollow laugh. "You didn't notice anything? Ever?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I guess I was just used to how things were." "Exactly," I said. "You were used to everything revolving around you. And I was used to disappearing." He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He just looked genuinely ashamed. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For the dinner. For not saying anything. For all of it." For the first time in a long time, I saw him not as the golden child, but just as a person, flawed, unaware, and raised in a home that made him the center of the universe without ever asking if he wanted to be. "I'm not asking you to take sides," I said. "I'm asking you to understand why I had to leave." He nodded. "I do." And surprisingly, I believed him. We sat quietly for a while. Then he asked, "Are you coming home?" I took a breath. A deep, slow one. "No." He didn't push. He didn't guilt-trip me. He just nodded again. "If you ever need help in New York, or anywhere, call me, okay?" That made me cry. A real brother moment. Something we rarely had. He hugged me before leaving. And that hug felt like closure. Not with him. But with the version of my family I'd been clinging to. Later that evening, I finally sent my parents a message. Not long. Not emotional. Not angry. Just honest. "I'm safe. I'm staying with Maya for now. I need space. We can talk when I'm ready." My mom tried calling immediately. I didn't answer. Because this time, the space was mine. My boundary. My choice. And I wasn't giving it back. Over the next few weeks, I started building myself again. Piece by piece. I decorated Maya's spare room exactly how I wanted. I applied for a better paying job. I enrolled to transfer from community college to a university, my choice, not an afterthought. I saved my own money. I made new friends. I celebrated myself. For the first time ever, the world didn't revolve around Jacob. And for the first time ever, I wasn't orbiting him. I was my own person. With my own voice. My own life. My own worth. My relationship with my parents is complicated now. We talk occasionally, but I don't go home often. The dynamic hasn't magically changed just because I left. But I changed. And that was enough. Because leaving didn't break my family. It revealed what was already broken. And stepping away was the only way to protect myself from spending my whole life as a supporting character in someone else's story. I deserved to be the main character of my own life. And now?